Oh, here we are. I forgot to pay attention to the screen. So far it's, I think, just me, maybe one other person. But hopefully some will trickle in. I realize now that we're, you know, really into summer and gardening and harvesting and, whatever stage you're at in your gardening, that people are busy middle of the day in the middle of the week. This is why I do really appreciate people who choose to take time out of their very busy schedules to sit and hang out with me for a bit or a couple hours. I'm going to try not to go 2 hours today. It just depends on how long it takes to get through my topics. I do have a grandbaby here again. His dad will probably be showing up at any time to pick him up. But right now it's quiet because he's out playing on the deck. But the door is wide open so I can listen. He actually does play pretty good by himself. I'm just surprised he's out there. I'm glad he's out there, but I'm surprised he's hanging out there because he usually likes to be wherever you are. He doesn't usually like being somewhere alone. He can play quietly by himself alone ish, but he likes to at least be in the same room. But the sun is out right now, which it wasn't just a few minutes ago. So I'm glad he's out there. So anyway, if you're coming in and watching this in replay, just know we kind of sit and chat for about 10 minutes. So there's nothing showing up in the chat right now. So hopefully people are actually there. I see that there's 9 people on right now, but there's nothing in the chat yet. So that means Deb and Tyler are definitely not here because they always have something to say. Oh, good. Oh, good. Thank you for the thumbs up. There's one. And there's a heart. That does help. It makes me know that you can hear me. That's what my concern is. It's like, can people even hear me? Am I just talking to myself? So yeah, good. I'm glad you made the live. Hello, everyone. And it does actually take a few minutes for things to kind of get going and then kind of get caught up. Yay, you can hear me. Thank you, Holly. So, what was I going to say? So yeah, so if you're watching a replay, just scoot it in about 10 minutes and we'll hopefully, I'm not running over my opening time and I'm on topic by then with my first topic. So I have 3 topics. I may only talk about 2 depending on how everything goes for time. But they're all important, but as far as the time of the year, there's 2 that I find most important to talk about right now. So some of it actually goes right along with the video that published today on my main channel on the food preservation as part of the Jar It Up July collaboration. So video is getting a little good, some decent tracking. What am I trying to say? It's doing good or doing decent for this time of the year. Usually July and August are, no matter how good my channel is doing as a whole throughout the year, July and August are the ones that get the least amount of views, which is totally understandable. Like I said, people are busy and some people are on vacations and they should be taking a break from, staring at a video screen if they're spending time with family. So that's a good thing. But, I got to keep pumping out the content. Otherwise, you really start to lose traction. That was the word I would think I was trying to say earlier. So I got the arnica boards and lovage. Okay, I thought that was you. I wasn't sure if that was the same Holly or not, but okay, good. So, yeah, glad those came for you. See, I saw the video from today. Do you freeze in only wide mouth jars? No. I prefer. It depends on what I'm freezing. If I'm freezing liquids, I use regular mouth jars. And even then, I don't top it off. I leave a gap so that, because the liquid's going to, as it freezes, it's going to expand. And okay, you guys still there? I said chat disconnected and reconnected. Are you guys all still there? Please let me know. I'm going to wait. Okay, good. That was weird. So the video's still going. Okay, thank you. Because I haven't had the video thing get disconnected in a while, even though I keep making a backup stream ready to get going just in case. I almost wasn't going to do it today. I'm like, well, yeah, it's been doing good. But I know as soon as I stop having a backup stream ready to go, that's when the whole thing's just going to go. So anyway, the regular mouth, yeah, because the liquid's going to expand, it's going to crack your jars. And then I also make sure the lid is on very loose until it is fully frozen. And at that point, I might add a little bit more liquid and then put the lid on. When it comes to that, it does seem like the regular mouth jars can handle it better. And plus, it's easier to pour things from a regular mouth, just in the fact that it's a smaller hole. So it's easier to pour it into something else without getting it everywhere, is what I mean. But when it comes to like my berries and other things that I freeze, I typically will use a wide mouth, but I'm not packing it full. And, and I'm usually adding the berries and then freezing. Like maybe I'll fill up a quarter or half the jar, freeze that, and then top it off and then let it finish freezing. And, I'm just adding to it as it goes. So there's no concern. I've never had a jar break when doing that. I heard the shoulders of the regular jars will break them. Yeah, it really depends on how full you fill it and what it is you're freezing. But I've frozen milk, broth, what else? Some other juice in regular mouth and have not had them break. But again, it's all about making sure you don't fill it all the way full. Because yeah, when it expands, it'll break. So, okay, how are we doing on time? Got a couple minutes. More people are filtering in. Deb's probably busy today. I'm surprised she's not here yet. But if she's not busy or if she's not busy later, I'm sure she'll pop in. Just like there it goes again. Chat disconnected. Please wait. Are you guys seeing that same message on your end? Wonder why that keeps happening. That is very strange. As long as my video keeps going and you guys can keep hearing me just fine. I'm looking at the time. Okay. I think it's going to be okay. I hope so. Everything looks fine. Okay. No message. Weird. Yeah, it says chat disconnected. Please wait while we try to reconnect you, and then successfully connected like immediately after that. Twice. So that's weird. Weird. Because it's actually showing, the messages are actually showing in the chat, like in italics. So I think I'm a tad bit early, but I will go ahead and get started because I know just like you guys, I mean, I have a lot to do, just like I know you guys have a lot to do. And I need to kind of keep an eye on Jace as much as possible until Dad gets here. So the first topic is obviously usually whatever the title of the live is the first topic. So I've been doing the series, which darn, I forgot to link to the series in the description box. But I've been doing this series on 3 foods I store. So it started off with the first 3 videos were foods that I would buy because I don't grow them or I can't grow them, and then try to stock up a lot, such as grains, certain types of beans. Did I talk about beans? I don't remember. I know I talked about beans as being one, like the green beans, the dual purpose kind of beans are the only kind of beans I like to grow. And, so you can use them as a green bean as well as a dry bean. And to me, they make the best use of space, especially if they're a pole bean. It's also the only kind of bean I typically grow, though I do have some bush beans struggling out there. Bush beans never do great for me here for some reason. I do not know why, but anything that can climb does great, which is great. because I can better make use of my limited space that way. So anyway, then the last two videos were about the things I grow and put up, and that is what today is about. So it's the third video in that part of the series. So we're going to start off with the berries because I am just so excited this year to be getting a good amount of raspberries in. This is the first time in years that we've been able to get raspberries grown, be able to get a good harvest on our raspberries. Because several years back, I had some good raspberry plants going. I was getting raspberries in, and suddenly one year they all just up and died. I have all of them. And that is just really strange because raspberries, at least here, will spread, and their roots will go under the ground and they'll just start shooting up everywhere. And so, but for some reason, those I had them growing right up against the house, and they grew there for a few years and were doing quite well. And then one year they just never came back. And then it took us a few years because I'm like, well, I'm not planting them there again if I ever get any more. And it was just a matter of figuring out a good spot to grow them. And so a couple of years ago, we did, um, let's see, we made some space on one side of the chicken yard up against the fence. And so it's this big, like 6 by 6 foot patch, and got some plants from a neighbor, and then got those put in. And then last year I started getting berries off of them. This year I'm getting quite a bit. But of course, then what we did was we cleared out that rest of the area all along the backyard fence, because what we had there before were our not our pallets, but the frames that we use to stack our firewood in, and they were all along the fence. Well, Patrick, for some reason, we'd stopped putting the firewood in there. We were going to start doing it again, but mostly he's just been, cutting and splitting it and stacking it on the side yard. So finally, he just got the bright idea last year to move those frames to that side yard, and eventually, one of these days, he'll get around to basically lining those up on the edge so that they'll be kind of like their own little privacy fence. So it'll be dual purpose. We'll be able to store the firewood and add a little more privacy on that side. And because the side yard, we're on a corner lot, so the side yard also faces a street, just like the front yard faces a street. And so if that ever happens, that will be nice. It will eventually. Poor Patrick, so many things on his shoulders. But anyway, he then tilled up a section right next to the fence. And what we're doing is we're letting the raspberries spread across there, and they are. So the raspberries that are spreading across there should get raspberries next year. And then I have a couple of blueberry bushes that are pretty new, a couple of figs, one's old, one's new. And then on the far end, closest to the front yard, is a boysenberry that Patrick bought me last year. It was just a little bitty. Now it's like 8 foot tall, but it's just one of the branches. Just whoo. But I don't think we'll see berries on there until next year. So anyway, raspberries for us, when it comes to putting up a fruit for making jams, syrups, raspberry turnovers, which is Patrick's very favorite thing, pies, crisps, and the like, raspberries are our absolute favorite. So, I mean, I like eating a raspberry or two fresh off the plant, but when it comes to a cooked fruit or a fruit that you just want to put up a lot of to get you through the whole year so you can have all these great raspberries to make raspberry wine is also excellent. Raspberry is the best in our personal opinion. Second on that is any kind of blackberry, boysenberry, any of those. And for all the same things. Jams, pies, turnovers, etc. Syrups, whether it be for pancakes or putting on ice cream or something. And so we like to put up a lot of those two things. I also grow blueberries and currants, and I will put those up, but I don't. The blueberries we prefer to eat fresh. The currants, aren't the best to eat fresh because they're really tart. I don't mind them, but they got that big seed in it, which I also don't mind. I've made jam mixed with blackberry, and the flavor is excellent. But for those who don't like seeds, they would not like that because the seeds are kind of big. Are you guys still there? It's so quiet in the chat. I know you guys are busy, aren't you? You're just listening. That's fine. I just like to make sure I'm still there because I worry with all the problems I've had on the live. Okay, thank you, Kathy. Just so I know everything. I'm still coming through loud and clear. So, and currants are very tart, but they add a beautiful color and flavor to like homemade wine. So if I'm making my wine out of my own grapes, which I don't know why I didn't put down grapes yet, but grapes is also something that I grow and put up a lot of, mostly for winemaking, because my grapes mostly end up being tart because of where they're growing. They don't have the same amount of time to get that real sweetness. And even if they do, the doggone chickadees start sucking all the juice out of them. But excuse me. Anyway, you mix in maybe some blueberries and some currants in there and juice them all up. It makes a beautiful and very tasty wine. But let's see. But though I have put up a lot of currants in the form of freezing, right now I'm saving space mostly for the raspberries, which I also freeze. Raspberries, blackberries, blueberries, and currants, I typically freeze all those to hold their flavor best until I can use them. The problem with that is they do take up a lot of space. So I think I even was talking about some of that in my video that came out today. But yeah, I've canned blackberries before, but again, I just prefer to keep them in a frozen form to use however I want. And anyway, but I can always, whenever I'm ready, usually when I'm picking blackberries, I'm not wanting to get into the jam, making jam right away. And most of these kind of things. So I just pick them. I put them either in jars. Some of the other things, like if I'm wanting them in bigger batches, I then will use those reusable zip bags they're not, they are a type of plastic, but I wish they were silicone, but they're not. Um, oh, what are they? They're BPA free at least. I mean, plastic is still plastic, and none of it's perfect. Well, excuse me. Whatever that was about. Um, he's being goofy. But yeah, so that way I can freeze up a gallon at a time. So those are something where if I want to make a big batch of jam or whatever, I've got those for that. Let's see. I have to strain out the raspberry seeds. Sometimes in jam or sauces, it's too much. See, I don't mind the raspberry. I don't mind the raspberry, blackberry seeds. The currant seeds, I mean, I actually like the seeds and they're actually really good for you, especially if you chew them up. But the currant seeds, I really pretty much don't mind. But those get stuck in my teeth more than the other ones. And I'm thinking, man, if I gave anybody this jam, I mean, the flavor is amazing, but a lot of people probably wouldn't like the seeds in it. So if I do that again, I just like all the fruit pieces in there. So I'm like, how do you do this and keep the fruit in there and get the seeds out at the same time? Because I'm not a jelly fan. I like jam. I like having whole fruit. And so anyway, that's just, we both are kind of that way. But and then strawberries, I do grow strawberries, but I don't grow them to put up, though I have put up a lot, again, in the form of freezing in jars. I just find that when it comes to strawberries, we prefer just to eat them fresh, and it gives me that one fruit that I can have coming in for a good part of the summer, and the grandkids can go out and pick some strawberries and eat them fresh off the plant. We'll go out there and pick them and eat them fresh. If I have some homemade ice cream ready to go, Patrick did this the other day, went got some strawberries and put it on his ice cream. Did he put chocolate syrup on there too? I don't remember. Maybe he just put the strawberries. So those I like using fresh, but the others, the blackberries, the raspberries, especially, are the two things we really like to put up for a lot of. And that's what the purpose of these videos are. The kind of things I really want to stock my pantry and freezers full of. Oh, and I was going to say too, the nice thing about berries, if you start going, well, gosh, I don't want to freeze them all or can them all, it's taking up a lot of space, then you can dehydrate them. I haven't worked with them much. I've dehydrated a few blackberries. The nice thing though about berries, as opposed to most other types of fruits, is that berries don't have the amount of sugar like things like, well, we can't grow pineapple and mango, but those two things have a lot of sugar. Some of your apples can have a lot of sugar, so when you dehydrate them, they don't get really crisp. Some will. It depends on the apple. But um what are some other kind of fruits? There's a lot of fruits. If they have a lot of sugar, they're not going to dry up crisp unless you freeze dry them. But if you're like me, not interested in a freeze dryer, then at least berries, that's something you can dehydrate and it will dry up crisp so you can powder it and then use it as a flavoring or even coloring in whatever you want. You can't powder the things that are high in sugar when they dehydrate because they'll always stay flexible. Now, right here are some apples that I dehydrated in 2023. These, I haven't opened them. I probably should open them and see how they are. But some of my apples, depending on what time of the season I picked them, are will turn out crisp enough that I can actually powder them. And actually, oh, and well, that's really my next topic. So apples is the other one on my list today that I like to put up a lot of. And so I have jars and jars and jars of apples that go back a few years because even in dehydrated form, I even have a video on this, on all the many uses of dehydrated apples. A lot of times you think, oh, dehydrated apples for a snack. Well, yeah, that's good. The grandbabies love them usually, which is why I should open these and start working through them, sharing them with the grandkids because I have a lot more apples coming in this year. Um, but you can you can take those apples, even if they don't dry up crisp, you can cook them and use them in pies. You can use them in crisps. You can even use them to make uh, apple butter and apple sauce. You just got to just throw them like this. If you have whole pieces, you don't have to powder them first. Just throw them into some juice or water and cook them until they're really soft. And then if you're making an applesauce or apple butter and you don't want any chunks in there, you just take a stick blender and blend them up really good, and you can get it nice and smooth. And it can make a great baby applesauce because you can get it just really, really smooth. And so I like that. And then the ones that turn out crisp enough that I can powder, I love to use those for flavoring things. So added to oatmeal, added to breads of different kinds, whether it be usually it's going to be some kind of sweet bread. So whether it be maybe a apple cinnamon bread that I'm making and make a little apple icing or orange icing to put on top, or what I've done a few times now that I really like is using them when I make cinnamon rolls. I'll add a little bit of the apple powder to the dough, then I'll put some of that also cut back on a lot of the sugar that goes in the middle, so you got your brown sugar and your butter, and then go like half and half, replace half of that brown sugar with apple powder. So you're cutting back on the sugar and getting more of that apple flavor in there. And then that's what I'll fill the cinnamon roll with. And then, of course, with adding the cinnamon and nutmeg and cloves in there as well. And then I'll use more of the apple powder in the icing that I drizzle over the top. And so I just love that I can do all that with apples. And apples go with so many things. Oh, and let's not forget, I didn't put this on my list. Other things you can do with apples besides juicing and canning that juice if you want, or using it to make wine, which I've done before. I've made one year, I made uh I think maybe 3 gallons, 3 separate gallons of apple wine that turned out pretty good just using the apple juice I pressed from my own apples. And then I also apple smoothies that I fermented for a few days so they'd also get fizzy, and then flavored them with some of my different homemade extracts. Like there was one I did that was a cherry vanilla. So I had some cherry extract I'd made from freeze dried cherries I got from Mother Earth Products, and my own homemade vanilla extract as well. And that was my favorite one. So I just add those to the smoothie that I was making and then fermented it for a few days. Oh my goodness, so good. And then what was the other one? I think I made was it an orange spice or an orange vanilla? Maybe it was one of those two. That one was also very good. And then there was one more. I don't remember what it was. But anyway, yeah, there's just so much you can do with apples. They're so versatile, which is why I really like putting up a lot of those. And anyway, let's see let me double check, make sure and you can your apple pie filling. They'll say you should leave the flour out if you're going to do that. The reason I don't like canning pie fillings is because to me a quart jar is not enough. So I always have about 6 cups of fruit in my pies. And unless of course you're working with a smaller pie pan, but all of mine are like not the standard 9 inches. And so I guess I have some 10-inch ones too that I ended up with that I never use. But anyway, so what I like to do, and then this way I can mix the flour in there and not worry about it. But this is the other way I like to put them up, is using those same zip bags that I was talking about earlier. Is I will slice up all my apples. I do have the apple slicer thing. I took the peeler thing off of there because, when you got homegrown apples, they're not all absolutely perfect. And so if they're just a little misshapen, it's not gonna peel perfectly. So I just peel them by hand. But I still like using a slicer core. That still makes the rest of the job go really fast. And then I'll take those little spirals and just cut them in half and then throw them in a bowl. And I don't measure it out. I just know how full the bowl is supposed to be. And then I'll add my sugar, my flour, a little bit of the rhubarb powder, and for it in place of lemon juice. A lot of people add lemon juice to some of their different fruit pies. I use rhubarb powder because that's what I have. I mean, I have lemon juice, but I grow rhubarb. And I really like the added flavor it gives to it. And so I put about a quarter cup of the rhubarb powder in there, and then a quarter cup of flour, and then just mix it really well. Put it in one of those zip bags, seal it up. And then when I want to make an apple pie, which all year long, I'm making apple pies, and I still have some in the freezer. And I just like something comes up. Oh, we're having a potluck this weekend at church. Oh, okay. Well, thaw out a bag of apples, make my crust, pour it in there, put the top crust on, bake it. I'm ready to go. I don't have to cut or slice or add all that other stuff. It's all done. I mean, it's just the making the crust is what's going to take the longest at that point. And I love being able to do that. I pretty much do the same thing with blackberries, but because I put up a whole gallon of blackberries at a time, I usually only need about half a bag. Well, a little better than half a bag. So then when I did this last time, I made a blackberry pie, I had a lot of blackberries left over. And so what I did was, it wasn't quite enough to make another pie. So I added, I was trying to get some of my currants out of the freezer to make more space for the raspberries. So I took a jar of currants and threw those in there too, mixed it up and had a currant blackberry pie. And that was really good. Still had the seeds in there, but it was good. Heidi got me into making ice cream. Oh my goodness. I'm so glad that I remembered I had that ice cream maker and started doing it again. And I think I've told you guys the story before. The reason I stopped making it for a while this was years ago. Mom got me the ice cream maker. Like, I don't know. It was so long ago. I think the kids were still fairly young and lived at home. And then it was just like, man, this is kind of really expensive to make, to buy the heavy whipping cream and at the time, it was a lot cheaper just to buy the ice cream from the store. Well, then you start learning about all the ingredients that are in the ice cream from the store, and their containers keep getting smaller. They'll look the same. You might go, why does that look smaller? It looks the same, but it looks smaller. Well, read the packaging. We watched those things go from being a half gallon down to 1.75 quarts down to 1.5 quarts. Yet the price, the price doesn't even stay the same. It gets higher. So it's getting more expensive for less. So you're having both inflation and shrinkflation on the same thing of ice cream. And I finally decided, like, every now and then we'd splurge and buy some ice cream. And then I was like, wait a minute. I think somebody had mentioned it in a comment. Oh, we make ice cream, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I have the ice cream maker. I should make sure it still works, and just buy my heavy whipping cream from Azure now that I can, and just freeze it up, and so because I can get a case of it and get a much better price than I can at the store, and I get the organic heavy whipping cream. And I just make it myself, and it turns out so much better. And then I always just make vanilla. Every now and then I think, man, I should throw some of these raspberries in there, make a raspberry ice cream. But then it's like, no, we just keep it vanilla so that we can flavor it however we want. Patrick loves making orange or root beer sodas with a healthier soda, a healthier orange soda or a healthier root beer. Like we get the Ollie Pops, and they're expensive, but they're at least healthier, and it's a special treat I can keep on hand. And let's see what else. Sometimes he likes chocolate syrup, sometimes the caramel and the chocolate syrup, or yeah, he just whatever he's in the mood for. And same thing with me. I like to add like the Azure standard peanut butter. I know I'm totally off topic here. Well, not totally, but somewhat. I like the Azure creamy peanut butter on the ice cream because it's actually kind of runny anyway. It wouldn't be great for a sandwich, but I don't eat a lot of peanut butter sandwiches. Excellent on ice cream. So good on ice cream. In fact, I need to remember that when I make ice cream next, which I think was I going to make ice cream this weekend? I usually try to do it every other weekend. What does that say? Cold to your home? Oh, does Azure ship? They will ship straight to your home, but you have to pay shipping because they're going to ship it UPS. So whatever the UPS charges, and that's going to go by the weight. So if you're ordering 50-pound bags, it can get rather expensive, but that's just what it costs. Now, one thing I like to make sure people know, because until we had a drop point, that's how I was doing it, but I was doing the math, and I found that I was paying just as much or less than what I was paying for grains and whatever, 50-pound bags from other places that had free shipping. Because what's happening is they're including the shipping into the cost already, knowing that you're very likely to buy enough to get the free shipping. So they've already accounted for that. Where the Azure, that's the price. And then if you're going to have it shipped to your home, you're going to pay the shipping on top of that, which I had a time where I ordered so much stuff in big bags that the shipping alone was $200. But when you did the math straight across, what I was paying per pound was cheaper than what I was paying for those same kind of grains, buying off of Amazon or some other site because there was time Honeyville was selling organic grains. I don't even know if their company is still established. And you could get free shipping if you ordered so much at a time. Well, I was still paying a little bit less through Azure. Not everything is going to be less, but a lot of things are. So just keep that in mind. Okay, so I got off topic. Speaking of, I got to go pick up my order this evening. Kind of excited because I got yellow split peas and green split peas to add to the chicken feed, and for us too. But my chickens will eat those. Most of them will eat those, and it's a good way to get some more protein into their diet. So, okay, so I talked about the raspberries. I talked about the apples. Did I finish my little spiel on the apples? I think I did. I'm sure there's more that I'm forgetting, but yeah, the dehydrating is nice because it saves a lot of room and you can still use these to make pies. I still usually, even though they're dehydrated and going to take up less space, when I've made a pie out of these, I still have used maybe at least a jar and a half. And then I rehydrate them. I cook them a little bit in some kind of juice. And that's the fun part too. If you're using them for making pies or crisps, you cook them in whatever flavor juice you want. Doesn't have to be apple juice unless you just want more of an intense apple flavor, or raspberry juice. Cherry juice is super good. A black cherry juice to cook these in, and you get a cherry apple pie. Very good. Very, very good. I think, have I done raspberry? I think I did raspberry, but the juice I was using wasn't super great. And it wasn't like fresh juice from our own raspberries or anything like that. But I think if it was a good quality raspberry juice, I think that would be amazing. Let's see, Azure packs their peanut butter in canning jars. Yes, I've never bought the 12 pack of peanut butter. I just bought like 2 or 3 at a time. So it doesn't matter how many you buy. That their peanut butter, and they have some other products that they sell in jars. Like I think I bought some pickles one time to try them out, and they were in the Azure canning jars. And I really like their jars, and I like the look of them. But if you're not paying it, they're honest about it. It says right on the box they are made in China, just so people know. But the lids, the superb lids they put on their jars, are made in the US. So there are definitely situations I understand people having, when they design something and they start a company, they don't have the funds or the means to have a factory to produce these things. So they give their design to a company in China and does it. I might not fully agree with it, but I can at least understand. So for some people, that's a way to start. But I'm going to talk more about that when I get into the canning lids and jars and my thoughts on some of this. So I'll save that topic. That's topic number 2. I got to finish this one first, you guys. I'm blaming you guys. You see that? You see that? You hear that? Yeah, I'm putting all the blame on you. So hang on just a minute. Jace? Okay, Grandma's just checking on you, buddy. I got these goodies in here for you if you want them. Your gummies are in here. You want gummies? Okay, my knee didn't like that too much. Sitting in the same position for too long. He's doing good. He's just so quiet. Now, usually if he's quiet, he's just enjoying the sun. If it was Rowan that's quiet, you really got to worry. She's a devious little thing. You want your snacks, or over here, buddy? You okay? You having a hard time seeing in here after sitting in that bright sun? He's like, I can't see anything. Okay, so the number 3 on the list was rhubarb. So I heard he brought up the rhubarb, and I didn't bring in my jar of rhubarb. So I'm about done filling up my second jar of dehydrated rhubarb. And some of the reasons why I love to grow rhubarb and put it up, even though I've eaten rhubarb straight. It's actually pretty good, but it's tart. There's no sugar in rhubarb. My grandkids, both Jax and Jace, when I gave them just like a little bit when they were just babies, big enough to kind of chew on it, they loved it. And they'd be like, they'd be chewing on it. It's good for them. But the nice thing about rhubarb, just like I was saying earlier, is that you can dehydrate it and powder it and use it as a replacement for lemon juice in things. So if lemons or lemon juice, you can't grow lemons in your area because, you don't live in that kind of climate like us. And you just can't get this stuff for some reason. If you can grow rhubarb like we can, then that's a way that you can basically have a free I was going to say substance, but it's not lemon juice. Unless, of course, you juice it, you can do that. One of the weird things, though, I found about juicing rhubarb, at least mine, when I froze it and then juiced it, because that makes it so much easier to juice, it took on a salty kind of flavor. It was good, but it was odd. But you don't get that from the powder. Like if you powder or you just add the fresh rhubarb into something and cook it, or the dehydrated rhubarb pieces and cook it. I don't get that. Only get that flavor once I've juiced it. It's the juice itself. It's very, very strange. So anyway, that's why though it does make a good rhubarb margarita wine, because it's already got that kind of salty flavor added to it, and you can make it sweet too and add a little bit of lime juice, and it does turn out quite good. But at any rate, so you can also use your rhubarb pieces if you prefer to keep them in pieces. I usually don't powder it until I've worked through my jar of powder, which usually will happen in the fall when I'm putting up all those apples, and I'll go through a lot of that powder, and then I'll powder it up, whatever I've got jarred up in pieces. But it dehydrated takes up so little space, just like a lot of your dehydrated things. It just dehydrates down. You can have pieces this big, and it's like this big by the time you get done dehydrating it. And then vacuum seal it into jars, and now you've got this rhubarb that's going to last pretty much forever in these jars. Excuse me. And then, like I said, you can use it like that. I've tried just taking the rhubarb in the pieces and cooked it in water to see how well they would rehydrate. They actually rehydrate better even than zucchini does. And that surprised me. I didn't expect that. And you can even cook it into a sauce of some kind. So I've cut up a lot of rhubarb and froze it in the past. The only reason I would do that now is if I know I plan on juicing it to make a homemade wine. And I don't do that much anymore, just because I have so many grapes. And even though the rhubarb margarita wine is great, and I do have a video on that, the best one is like something where if I'm going to add raspberry to it, or blueberry even. Oh, so good. But anyway, those are what I'm more likely to use. But the rhubarb is just really great for all of that other stuff. Anything you want the rhubarb flavor in, or just need to add that tartness. And so for us, it's just a really great thing to grow and then put up. Now, one of the, I hope I'm saying this right. I should have looked it up again before I got on here, but I wasn't thinking about the time. I know that it's commonly thought that rhubarb, because it's so tart, has a lot of vitamin C in it, but it's not. When I looked it up, it's not near as high in vitamin C as you would expect for as tart as it is. You're going to get a lot more vitamin C from other fruits that aren't even as tart as your rhubarb. And I don't know if that's because rhubarb is not a fruit, it's a vegetable. But some vegetables have vitamin C in them too. So there's some, it's just not, it's not as high as we always tend to assume. So you like those? Those pretty good. Crunchy, 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 munchy. So anyway, those are the 3 things for today's list. I don't know if I'll do any more, but here's the nice thing about these 3 things is, unlike, I think, the last 2, I don't remember what I said in my last 2 lists, but I know that at least most of the items I listed off were all annuals. These are all perennials. So I don't have to work so hard at it. I don't really have to do anything to the rhubarb, or any more to the raspberries, or the apples for that matter, other than, well, you got to prune the trees, which we've been really lax on that for the last couple of years, which is sad. We just keep forgetting. The best time to prune them is in the fall, but then I forget, and then the rains come, and it's not fun to stand out there pruning apple trees in the rain. So the next topic is about canning lids in jars. Let me get a drink of water. Did I ever do my greeting? I don't think I did. So I'm going to do that just in case I didn't. So Hello, everyone. Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. There's my greeting I can put into all the videos I make from this. Let me see how far into this we are. Where's the timer? Where's the timer? They keep moving stuff. 45 minutes? Okay. So I'll know where to find it when I go to make the videos. Because then I got to cut that part out and then I got to put it into, into each one. Because if I don't, people are going to say, what? God isn't good anymore? You don't like God anymore? Okay. Anyway. So I do talk a little bit about this in the next Monday video that's coming out, but this topic is rather interesting in several ways. And I decided to do a little more research for myself, already knowing what I knew, but I'm like, is there more here to this picture that I don't know? So there's canning lids that are made in the US and canning lids that are made in China. And some of these, even the Chinese ones, are actually pretty popular and highly promoted brands from other content creators. Sorry, I dropped my pencil. I was going to leave it, but then decided I might need it. So let me set that over there. Let me start off with, so in my Monday this and that, I was like, where are your canning lids made? So let's start with that. So I've got two different lists here. What do I have here? So, sorry, I'm just trying to gather my thoughts and figure out even though I wrote this down, I don't know which I want to talk about first. Okay, let's talk about what lids I think you should. I'm going to talk about jars too, but let's talk about the lids I think you should avoid, my personal opinion, okay? And that would be 4 jars. That's at the top of the list. Per and Denali, so brands you may have heard of. I've never used Per or Denali. I've tried some of the 4 jars simply because I ended up with a free box. I'll get into that. 2 different times they sent me a free box. Never asked for them. Never had heard of them. The first box that showed up and never heard of them. But anyway, all 3 of these are made in China. So, and really any jar or any lid that you find for cheap on Amazon, if it's made in China, you should avoid it. I wouldn't trust any canning lid. Jars maybe, but any lids that are made in China, personally, you can only trust the company that's giving them instructions to make sure that they're meeting the appropriate standards. And they might tell you that, but how do you know? And so what happened was I saw, okay, because of the whole jarred up July, and I was like, oh, I got to make sure people know that they can actually save 25% up until July 25th. And then let's see, Superb sent me an email that, said, okay, make sure they use a coupon code Rain Country 25. They can save 25%, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. And so I wanted to hurry up and get that out there. So I made a post about it. And somewhere in the conversation, apparently I can't speak today. My mouth is dumb and dumber. Anyway, somewhere in the conversation, underneath that post, somebody was asking about the 4 jars lids, and I said that they were made in China. Well, somebody must have read that comment. They didn't reply under that. They said it, made it as a separate comment and said, 4 jars lids are not made in China. They are made in the US. And, you could tell just they were probably a little annoyed, like they think I'm lying about it. Well, I can definitely tell you I am not lying about this. In fact, the very first box I got from 4 jars, this is the second box. I was trying to find the first box so I could show it. I thought I had it around here somewhere. But in the standalone video, I'll make sure I did take a picture of the back of the box, or is it the side or the back, where it says they're made in China. Back then, you could actually read it, but if you weren't paying attention and didn't look for it, you would have just assumed that they were made in the US because they said 4 jars USA and it had a little flag on it and it said American or USA brand or something like that with, around the flag. So the assumption was, oh, these are made in the US. And these came out during the whole pandemic thing, and nobody could find lids except for the Chinese made ones on Amazon. And then they fell for the 4 jars. And what happened was 4 jars shipped these packages of lids out to a whole bunch of different content creators like myself, unsolicited. I never had heard of them. They just went down to the post office to check the mail, and what's this? Never heard of this. That alone had me a little suspicious because usually companies will contact you before they just send you stuff. And because I was already suspicious, I looked over the box good. And I found, well, so you'll see, they'll have you can't see in this image, but or in the live because the light bleaches it out, but it says 4 jars USA because that's their that's their tag for Facebook, right? And so again, makes you think they're made in the US. But if you keep looking and you look farther down, you could see in red at the time, made in China. So I'm like, okay, they're made in China. But then people start talking about how they're made in the US and blah, blah, blah. Just like this woman who was trying to tell me they're not made in China. And well, let's see. So what happened next? Oh, some other people then informed me because they probably never found the writing on there, or they heard another channel, maybe they hadn't ordered the boxes, or talking about 4 jars and lids and how great they are. You got to remember that when content creators are given something for free, naturally, especially if you become an affiliate and you're getting a commission off of the sales through your link, you're going to want to praise it. But there are a few of us out there that are going to be, whether I will not affiliate with a company unless I believe in them. Or if I started affiliating with them and sharing the link, and then I saw some discrepancies, things that I thought were wrong, I will cut them off. No more. I will not promote them anymore. I will not purchase their products. And I'm going to stand by that. And as such, because I made that mistake a few times by like, oh, this is great. This place contacted me. I got this free stuff. And so far, I'm really happy with it. Now I won't do that anymore. I will only reach out to a company that I'm already using their product and believe in. That's what I did with Dr. Jacobs. That's what I did with Superb. At the time that I reached out to Superb, they didn't have an affiliate program set up yet because it was still pretty new. But it's going to be me that reaches out to them, and I'll only do it as an affiliate. I'll never do, what's the other one? Starts with an S. All of a sudden, there I go with the brain cramp. Sponsors. Because with a sponsorship, they tell you what you have to say in your little commercial. With an affiliate, you say whatever you want. You can say, you know what? These lids really suck if you want, because it's your channel. It doesn't matter if you got the stuff for free or not, but you will still, no matter how honest you are, you feel this automatic obligation that if you got something for free, like you should say something nice about it. And so there's already that pressure. And then if you're the kind that's just all about the money, then you're going to praise it up one side and down the other and whitewash the things that I'm speaking in general terms. Please understand that. Not everybody's like that. So what happened though then was, like I said, some people were actually contacting the company. It's like, where are these lids made? At the time, they would answer them and say, Well, currently they're made in China, but we're going to have a factory soon here in the United States. We're working towards that. Okay, well, that's cool. I guess I can understand that. Well, then they really kind of stopped even saying that. And I've had several people recently tell me that they've reached out to them to find out where they're made or if they're made in the US, and they wouldn't even bother replying. And then when they sent me, I don't know if I got this box maybe 2 years ago. And I talk about this in the Monday, and I show the picture I took of the right here. And you won't be able to see it anyway if I hold it up to the camera just because it's bleached out. But even without the bright light, if I was to hold this right up to the camera, you probably still wouldn't be able to see that right here in a very, 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 very light gray print. It says made in China against a white background. It's practically white on white. And when I got this box, I was looking to see, oh, maybe they moved their packaging looks different. Maybe they actually got a factory in the United States now. And so it took me a while to be able to see this. Well, I knew basically where to look because I remember where it was on the other box. There it is. But you got to put your glasses on and have a bright light. So to me, that right there is deceptive. And then the other part of this, and those who have been following me for a little while will already know this because they've heard me share this. When the last time I went to do a video about lids, I thought before I say anything about 4 jars, I want to make sure I go and check and see if they're made in the US or not yet. And so just checking, just checking. My cheeks are getting kind of rosy. It's getting a little warm in here. And so I was checking all over their page. I couldn't find anything that said they were made in the US. I finally found their FAQ, where if you go to their main page, and you'll see this on Monday's video because I actually took a screenshot of it, and I'll do that in the standalone video I make out of this. If you have to scroll down to the bottom, and you'll find the FAQs. And the question is, who makes these lids? Is the question. There's nothing, it doesn't say where are these lids made. It's just who makes these lids. So you think, okay, well, that should be where I find my answer. Well, when you start reading the answer, you have to be careful not to just skim it. Because if you just skim it and you're looking for USA, you will see USA and you'll think, okay, they're made in the USA. No, read it. You got to actually read it. It says actually nothing about who makes them or where they're made. It says nothing. It doesn't even answer the question, that frequently asked question. It doesn't even answer. What it says, I'm going to paraphrase because I'm not going to remember exact word for word, but you can look this up yourself, is highly experienced canners all over the USA love our lids. Something to that effect. That didn't answer the question, though. And it's still like that today. I know this because I screenshotted it this morning, so I could add it to the this and that I'm working on for this next Monday. It's still there. It still says it. So anyway, then what I did was, because this person was a little annoyed about, the one I answered her, but she never responded. Maybe she realized she was wrong. I don't know. But I decided maybe I should make a post about this again, because I'm seeing this 4 jars is still getting highly promoted all over the place. And so I made a post about it on my Facebook page. I have a Facebook page, Rain Country Homestead. And I put that very picture I'm talking about, that close-up I took of this, so people could see for themselves. Put your glasses on. And Heather from Needy Homestead, she made a very thoughtful comment under there that I want to read to you. I asked her for permission if she minds if I read her comment in a video, and she said, go right ahead. She goes, I've been silent on this one for too long. So I learned some things from her comment that I did not already know. So some of this was new to me. I haven't been able to vet everything yet, but I don't. Heather doesn't strike me as the kind of person that would just make this up. She clearly did her own homework about this herself. So here we go. Fantastic post, sis. I have so much to say on this topic, but I have bitten my tongue for years. Honestly, 4Jars, in my opinion, is one of the most dishonest companies I have ever seen, and those still promoting it are equally dishonest at this point because they have proven themselves time and time again. It is our responsibility as an online presence, if we are promoting and profiting and pushing products to our followers who trust us, to know where and how the products we promote are made. The influencers that continue to push the narrative that 4Jars was the only company that was there for us during COVID are deceivers. And I'm going to stop right here because that is 100% true. The only company? What about Tetler, a US company? They've been a US company all along with their reusable lids. I've been using them for many years. These are my second favorite lid right now. They used to be my very favorite, but now they're my second because I like Superb better. But still a great company. I'd still recommend them. And Superb came out at the same time. Made in the US. They were already a company making metal parts that was already established. And when they saw the need of their local community, the Amish in particular, because they're out of Ohio, needing lids, they started hand crafting these lids, like literally by hand. My light back there's freaking out again. Stop it. Just for their local community. And then as as they became more popular, and people really liked their lids, they started, creating bigger equipment and stuff so they could really start putting these lids out. Just so you know, 4Jars was not the only company that was there for people. Just because Ball and Kerr couldn't keep up with production because it was just unprecedented what happened. And you can't blame them for that. And by the way, Ball and Kerr are still made in the United States. So let me get back to Heather's thing here. So I just had to add my little 2 cents. So after she said, are deceivers, she said, just because you repeat a lie over and over again does not make it true. They slapped their name on a cheap Chinese lid that at the time we were all avoiding from Amazon and called it a USA product. Anyone can obtain an American business license for $10 to $20. Doesn't mean it's made in the USA product. But that was the false narrative they pushed. They have been planning to move production to the USA for years now. 6 years, by the way. Never have, and let me stop for a minute. I do understand these things take time and money to build factories, etc. I get that. But still, why do you hardly ever hear anything about this anymore? Never have and never will is what she says. It's all a lie and a scam. They just keep pushing out those cheap Chinese products with a smile and a nod. So I'm going to finish reading before I add any. I'm going to try to not add any more commentary to this. This company even went as far. This is what got me, people. This really, really got me. I'm just like blown away. This company even went as far as creating a canning book using stolen material from people's websites and blogs without permission or compensation or credit given to the original creators until they were called out for it. Then they had to remove it. I think there's a bug in my hair. Grr. Then they had to okay, sorry, now that lost me. Then they had to remove it from their website. You could still obtain a copy of it by PDF from 4Jars by emailing them and requesting a copy. They have yet to disclose what's in their plastisol on their lids. How do we know it's safe for food preservation? They have no clue. It's made in a factory in China. Their pressure canner should have been recalled when it was found to be defective, yet you still see influencers using and promoting them. The list goes on, including not paying compensation to some of its affiliates who have since stopped promoting them. Wow. The people that really believed they were who they said they were or what they said they were. I have never used any of their products, never endorsed them, never will. Scam artists and liars. The main sales representative doesn't even know how to can. Sweet mercy. So asking her any questions is useless. I am sure that was by design. The owners of 4Jars also sell skincare products. Canning was a bandwagon they jumped on after COVID for easy, fast cash, and it shows. Don't trust anyone using or promoting 4Jars. That's my best advice. It makes me sick how people will push anything for a buck. Always do your own research and ask around. Good people will speak truth, and experience goes a long way. I personally only use Ball and Superb Tattlers for my reusables. Now, here's the next one. Harvest Guard was developed by a stolen design from Tatler by an estranged son who was greedy. I wouldn't touch that company with a 10-foot pole either. God bless and happy canning, the needy homesteader. Now, I knew that about the Harvest Guard because somebody else had told me, and I did a little research into it and found out it was true, which is why I will not buy Harvest Guard. They're basically the same lid as Tattlers, but it seemed a little underhanded. Still made in the US, but I wouldn't buy them just because I want to stand on principle on that. I'm going to stick with the originals. I don't need to buy any more anyway. I have so many Tattlers. I bought a lot and somebody else gifted me a lot. So just like jars and lids of all kinds. I keep ending up with a bunch of them without having to buy any anymore, which is nice. So, okay. Wow. I remember when they started, they went live on Sutton Day's channel. They were from Ukraine. Yep, I figured that out. And it was a small family business in the US. Glad to hear this. So I did look into the Better Business Bureau. I was actually just trying to find more information. And I was looking at all the names. I hadn't seen Sutton Days or anyone else's video where these people were from. I didn't know. It wasn't until yesterday and this morning that I got a little more information just by doing some research. If you go to the Better Business Bureau, there's a list of all the company owners and managers. And they all have the same last name. It's all clearly Ukrainian. And, their first names, their last names, and a lot of them have the same last name. So it must be family owned. There was a few others with different last names, but still clearly Ukrainian. And not that I have any problem with that. And this morning, I finally found a video of an interview with another channel I have never heard of. The interview is 3 years old. They must have been in the States for a while. This guy that's talking doesn't even have an accent. So, we're all of us come from somewhere, right? I have Italian heritage, and from what I understand, a little bit of French thrown in there too somewhere. But, yeah. So I don't have a problem with that, but I was just like, okay, so who actually owns this company? And at first I was thinking, are they even actually in the United States? But I was able to verify that yes, they are a family-owned business. It's just, and as I was watching this video this morning, I'm like, okay, I want to hear if they're going to be honest. And this particular channel, whoever they are, was just totally praising them up one side and down the other, how much they love their products. But also talking as if they're the only canning lids that were available during the pandemic, which is absolutely not true. Again, you had these that are actually made in the United States, and these, which are also actually made in the United States. And they were all available. I know, because back then I was looking to see if you could still get those so I could let people know, the Tattlers. And the Superbs were really new to me in 2020 because I ended up about the same time getting some lids from them as well. And I didn't promote them right away because I'd also never heard of them. But what um what I'm going to do in that, because I didn't think to do it under the live, but in the standalone video, I'm going to put in the description box down below a link to another blog that I found that I think is also a few years old, of a person who felt pretty much the same way and the same way I did. And they did their research and found out these, lids are made in China. They're not, there's a lot of deceptive marketing. I'm like, okay, good. I'm not the only one saying this, because I was feeling really guilty at first. I didn't want to say anything bad, because sometimes some of the things you can only get made in China. And it's not about that so much that they're made in China. It's about the transparency and not being fully honest with people. But at least in this interview, he did admit, oh, they're made in China. And, currently, but we are going to real soon. This was 3 years ago. Real soon, we're going to have a factory here. And in the video, he said next year. Well, next year's come and gone, and still nothing. And now I've heard from other people who are saying, oh, they're saying next year they're going to have it. Oh, so 2027 now? I mean, okay, maybe things are taking longer than they thought, but even if they ever do finally follow through on their word and get their products, moved to the United States, just the whole deception, this whole thing, their website, and not even being forthright and transparent about where the lids are made, not even answering the question at all that they put in their FAQ, I think is really, really wrong and deceptive. And some of the stuff that Heather said here, now, again, I cannot vet all of this information. I was trying to see if I could find information about the cookbook, couldn't find anything, but if it's removed, then, that would explain that. And I was trying to, with limited time, see if I could find more information about the pressure canner, what kind of issues there were, and I couldn't find anything on that. So, but it sounds to me that there were some definite issues. And like I said, I don't think Heather would just make all that up. However, don't trust just her word or my word alone on that. I would look into it for yourself. Maybe you guys can find that. I just, like I said, trying to do too many things at once. I didn't have as much time to really research that to get some actual facts on that. But at any rate, let's talk a little bit more about what you can do. So I mentioned already the Azure standard jars, so they are great jars. And the only reason I even have any is because some of the products I bought, like their peanut butter and some pickles and something else, maybe, that they sell in jars, that's their own product, they sell in their own jars, the Azure standard jars. However, if you were to go buy, it will say right there, all you got to do is look, their jars are made in China. At least they're being open and honest and transparent about it. They are great jars, best I can tell, and I love the picture on them. However, if you're looking for USA made jars, I already covered the lids, so you've got Tatler, Superb, which are the two I would recommend the most. And then, if you have to, there's Harvest Guard. And then Ball. Oh, I know what I was going to say. The other ones are Ball, Kerr, Golden Harvest, and the Bernardin, maybe is how it's pronounced. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's mostly sold in Canada. But here's the thing. All of those, the jars and lids, are made in the United States. So it's just the one brand is the brand that goes to Canada. The Golden Harvest, Ball and Kerr, all made by the same, in the US, by the same company, which is a Newell company now. And so those are all US made, so you can trust those. The Golden Harvest is just the brand that they make, where I'm sure they're made the same way with just a different logo, but because I don't know why they would make one that was cheaper as far as the quality of it, but the price is cheaper. So they just give it a different name. And then that's what, a lot of your places, like I think Target, I guess. We don't have a Target around here. Walmart sells a lot of those, but they all are made in the US. So that's good news. I did double check that. I was starting to get skeptical about Ball because their lids have gotten cheaper over the years. And I was wondering if they were outsourcing their lids. And in through the pandemic, some of the jars they were selling were that I know of other people who bought, because I haven't needed to buy jars in many years, but they were their jars were just breaking before they could even do anything with them, not even canning with them, just putting dry ingredients in them. And the jars were just breaking, sitting on the shelf. But whatever happened there, I don't know. But and I can't attest to any of it because I haven't bought any new jars in years. Any new jars I have were gifted to me, like the Superb, because they just shipped me, didn't even tell me they were going to do it. They just sent me more lids and more jars. Very cool. I didn't really need them, but I appreciate it. So my issue though with the ball and the cur is like I said, they're just not as quality as the ones when I first got into canning that I was buying. They're thinner. Well, I don't know if they're thinner, but this part right here where it seals, it's harder. It's not as thick. And it made me realize this is why suddenly after years of canning, I was losing I was losing the seals on my jam jars, because when I'd make jam, I wouldn't can it, like I wouldn't put it in a water bath canner. I would simply put the lids on, clean, right? Making sure they're clean, everything's hot, put the lids on, put the band on tight, invert the jar for like 5 minutes, and then turn them right side up. And the heat from the jam would, because you're putting everything in there hot, would then, heat up the lid so that when you turned it up right, it would then seal. Didn't have any problems. And then suddenly one year, I started having issues with my jars coming unsealed in storage. So after that, I had to start I had to start canning them for, running them in the hot water bath for 10 minutes to make sure they sealed. And then I found out because I was following Half Acre Homestead, and she was pointing out the differences in the lids. So here's some other things I want to show you. So now you've got the Superb. This is the regular mouth, since I'm talking about lids right now. And then I don't know if you'll be able to see it in this image. So I'm holding a ball lid and a Superb. The Superb is definitely, you can feel the difference in weight and thickness. It's definitely firmer. And the 4 jars are the same. They're just as thin as the current ball and cur lids. Well, at least I think cur lids. I have some cur lids, but I think most of the curs I have are older. But the big thing is this little sealing part here. This is soft and it's far thicker. So this is why these are better for sealing, be it canning or vacuum sealing. Now, let's see. Now for the jars, I already mentioned that the ones that were made, the lids that were made in China, and the jars are made in China. But another brand that I always forget to mention for USA made jars is Anchor Hawking. And I always forget about them because I've never used them. I don't know that I've ever even seen them. The only reason I even know they make any is because people will say, well, what about this brand? They're made in the US. I'm like, oh, they make jars? I didn't know that. I have some mixing bowls that my mom gifted me years ago, and they're just real sturdy glass. I really like them. But I didn't know that they made canning jars, but they are made in the US. So I did do a little digging on that to vet that information. So when you're looking for, for those who are specifically wanting USA made products, for jars. So let me repeat that again. So you've got the Anchor Hawking, Ball, Cur, Bernardin. I don't know how to pronounce it. Sorry, my Canadian friends. Golden Harvest. Was that it? Ball, Cur, Golden Harvest, and then a Canadian brand. And then same with their lids. And then Anchor Hawking for jars. I don't know if they make lids. And then for the lids for American made is Superb, Tatler, and Ball and Cur. or that's where you're going to get your US made lids. So, okay, Holly, bye. If I read your comment fast enough. Let's see here. I believe, speaking about the superb lids. Oh, did I miss that? No. No, if she says Ukraine, the people who are selling making quote unquote the 4 jars, they're from the Ukraine, or from Ukraine. There's no the in front of it. But superb is from Ohio. Okay. I mean, they're in the United States. I got to be fair. The people who make these, or not make these, but the people who have the warehouse and are selling these in the United States, the family, they are from Ukraine. Okay. But they are in the US, where these have always been in the US. Both the company, the people, and the lids. They were never made out of state or out of country. Okay, so there's that. I think, did I cover everything? Let me see here. Gosh, how late is it? I gotta look here. I'm trying to look at all my notes. Mostly I wanted to read Heather's message there, which I thought was interesting. And she had more to say in following comments under that thread, but I thought that kind of hit home there. And I appreciated her sharing that. But oh, yes. So there's a blog, a link to, did I mention that? I did. I mentioned the blog, and the lady was bringing all that up and showing some of the images from the original box with the flag, and why she will never buy the 4 jars, even if they ever finally get their factory moved to the US. And she feels the same way. She likes the ball, the Tatler, and the superb. Those are her 3 favorites. Okay, I just heard jingling out there. I think it's just the wind blowing? Yeah, it is. Okay. Just my wind chime. So anyway, in comments down below the video, and also in the chat, if you're here, share what your favorite canning lids and jars are to use. Even if they're like the Azure standard jars that are actually made in China, share your experience with those. I've heard a lot of people talk about them, and say they really like them. And like I said, I don't think I've done any canning I think I have 3. Or no, I have more than that because I have more peanut butter in that, but I haven't used up all the peanut butter yet. I haven't tried canning with any of them yet, I don't think. So, okay, thank you everybody for the correction. I learn something new every day. You know what? We all get something wrong every now and then. It gets confusing out there, especially when companies aren't being entirely honest with you. I mean, as I was listening to that interview with that guy in this channel, I mean, he seemed like a nice guy. He seemed like he was trying to be honest, but what happened in the last 3 years? Why did they change their packaging? Why does their website not answer a frequently asked question? They just deflect. That bothers me. See, also 4 jars is the only brand that comes up when I look for lids or rims on Amazon until I scroll way down. Ridiculous. I keep wondering what's going on there. Because that's the other thing too, is if you have AI enabled on your browser and you put, where are 4 jars made? 4 jars lids. It will tell you they are made in the US. And then they'll give you, when I looked at it last, it gave you links, because I've since disabled AI because I'm like, I hate this, but I want to check out where are they getting this information, because I know that's not true. The information were from blogs where people they were using the lids, but they specifically said they knew they were made in China, and they made sure people knew that. So they didn't say they were made in the US. So that was a lie from AI. The people in the blogs were being honest. The AI was lying. And so I tried wording it a different way. Are 4 jars lids made in China? AI says, no, they are not made in China. They are made in the US. I'm like, liar. How is it being so easily manipulated? Or is AI just skimming posts and picking out words? Oh, it says US there, so I'm going to put that in there, just like on the FAQ. It's so weird. So, okay. Let's see, what time is it? Okay, let me see. Let me look at my last topic. It'd be good if I could do this. I'm just not sure about my throat. It's so sore today. I can feel my um, vocal cords a little swollen up. So anyway, I'll probably need these glasses. Not these glasses. So these might be cool and all, but they're really hard to see out of. And they're not going to magnify my sloppy writing. Okay, so this next one, we're going to go back to talking a little bit about financial stuff. And I just wanted to share this. This this video is more, or this topic is more about what's going on out there and why so many people. Can anyone answer my question? Also, what was your question, Kinley? If I have a choice, it will be superb. Ball would work. Okay. Empire. I'd never even heard of Empire. I'm not seeing your question, Kinley, or am I misunderstanding what you said? See, 4 jars, only brand comes out. Look at it. AI only knows what it is inputted, right? It is above with question. Okay, I got to scroll up. Let me look here. Boy, how far up is it? Where is it? Why am I not seeing it? Oh, wait. Let me try something here. If you, that is so irritating. I forget this. By the way, you might not be seeing everybody's comments in the chat because you have to go up to just above where it says goal, if that's showing on there. Hit that little drop down arrow and select live chat, not top chat. So now let me try again and scroll up and see if I can find it now. You may have to ask it again. I'm still not seeing it for some reason. I'm not seeing it. Why is it not showing up for me? Sorry, Kinley, I'm not seeing it. You may just have to re-ask it. It's not showing. I don't know why it's not showing for me. I see the one where you were commenting about how also 4 jars is the only brand that comes up when I look for lids or rims on Amazon until I scroll way down. And I keep scrolling up and I'm seeing no more comments from you above that. That's strange. Nothing. So you might have to just put it again and hopefully it will show up for me this time. Okay, do all components, if USA made jars means all components made in the USA. Using plastic seals, etc. I believe so. It should be. I don't know why it would not be. It's a good question though, Kinley. All components made in the US, made jars, made all components made in the USA, including plastic seals. Well, I absolutely believe so. Let's look at this jar here. Or box. This is an old box. BPA free. This is the Tatler. But you can go to Tatler's website, made in the USA. I'm pretty sure it would mean all parts, including the rubber gasket. So you've got the lid, right? And then you have the removable rubber gasket. So anyway, that's the best I can answer. I've never thought of it. I just assumed all parts would be made in the US. I don't know why it would be different with that. But anyway, so this topic is about how people, at least here in the United States, but I don't think this is just in the United States. I think this is all like, quite a few other countries, like over in United Kingdom, in Canada, etc. There's so many people that are living above their means. And I think a lot of us can be like, oh, well, yeah, I get that. I see that. But I thought I would just kind of list off some things that and some quotes by these people that are living above their means and why they do it and what their excuses are. Just to kind of give you an idea of what's happening out there in the real world that's hardly real anymore. And it's really sad because I mean, debt has been an issue for many, many, many years, but it's so much worse now. And, aside from houses and school loans that we've talked about in the past and cars, it's so much more than that. And people just have so many people have absolutely no sense of finances at all. I'm not saying that we don't, all have our things that we might waste money on now and then, and I'm not against that. It's all about, do you actually have the money? Can you actually afford to do that? And that is where it gets scary. So one of the things that I okay, let me read these four different quotes. I could have listed off a bunch more, but these are from people who spend a lot of money and are deep, deep, deep in debt. One young woman said, "I am never telling myself no." Hmm. Another person, "I can't afford it." No, was this the same person? No, I think this is the same person. "I'm never telling myself no. I can't afford it, but I still got it." Well, what she means is she still has it. So let's just say she wasted her money on these lids or on some silly thing like my lava lamp back here that she couldn't afford. So she had to charge it on credit and she hasn't paid it off yet. But she still has it. But excuse me, for how long? How long are you going to have that? Because here's my answer to that. Eventually, it will all catch up and you could lose everything you have if you're not. These people are charging their credit cards and not paying them. And even the few that are just making minimal payments, and they're wondering why their bill never gets smaller. It always stays the same. It's because they're making minimal payment and they just keep charging. They keep charging. And they're paying I can't believe the interest rates some of these people have. I think some credit cards are up to 30% interest. You're kidding me. And so many of these people have no understanding of interest rates. I saw this one where this lady she was in court. It was just a clip from Judge Judy, and she's standing there. I don't know what the case was about because it was just a quick clip. And so the judge was asking her about her car loan. She goes, "Oh, I don't have a car loan." She said, "Well, you just said you made a $1,700 down payment on the car." She said, "Yeah, that's all I had to pay." "What?" And she's like, "Well, they're financing it. We're financing it, and I have to pay X amount of dollars a month." And the judge is like, "Yeah, that's a loan." And I mean, she didn't even have a understanding that what she's got is a loan. And anyway, let me read two more of these. Here's a very common one. I'm sure a lot of you have heard a lot. "I don't like to cook." So what does that mean? That means they go out to eat for every single meal. I don't like to cook. Okay. Um, there was this one guy. It was a guy. "I will pay more just to have the designer logo." So he was going on about how it didn't matter if he saw two items that looked exactly the same, the quality seemed exactly the same. He's going to pay 10 times more for this product here because it has this designer logo on it. Because that's what's more important to him than actually staying out of debt. And it's downright scary and sad. So let me now go on to just some of the things people where all their money is going, just to give you an idea if you don't already know. Okay, what is this? Or situations. Let me start with this. The situations that people also get themselves into. And I'm starting with this one because if we weren't already out of debt and savvy with the money we have, I could see myself ending up in the same boat. And there's content creators from all platforms. YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, it doesn't matter. Where they start that for some reason their profile, their channel, their whatever you're going to call it suddenly blows up and they start making money. I don't know how people make money off Instagram, honestly, but apparently they make money off of TikTok. I don't know. I'm not on TikTok, have no interest in it. Um, but like in 2020, my channel suddenly blew up and was doing really, really good. I'm not saying I was making a crud load of money like some people have done, but I was like, wow, this is really good. Now, if I was stupid, I would think, "Oh, man, my channel's just gonna keep making more and more money. I can spend this money on whatever I want and just blow all our savings." And then what happened just a few years ago? Suddenly I think there was 2 main things that happened, or a few big things, but YouTube changed things. YouTube changed things so that all of us older channels, our regular subscribers suddenly were not seeing our content anymore and thought we had left. And so we lost all of their views. And then because we lost all their views, and now that looks bad in the algorithms. So YouTube no longer was promoting our channels. And we went from making this much money down to where we're at now. We're making 1/6 of what we once were at our best. So, what these silly content creators have done that have went through the same thing, they just guess they thought that that money was gonna keep coming in like that. So instead of just putting it away, stocking it up into savings or investing in things like real things that will last, things that are important, they blew it on fancy schmancy cars, big, massive houses they didn't need, and clothes, designer garbage, and so much more. And guess what? A lot of the designer stuff now is not made as well as some of the similar looking products that are sold for a lot less. That I was watching stuff about this too. A lot of the designer stuff. It doesn't matter if it's a fancy car like a Lexus or if it's a Chanel bag. It doesn't matter. Whatever the brands are. I don't care. I've never owned any of those and I don't want to. People we're talking about how their fancy, expensive thousands of dollars purse is already falling apart and they haven't had it for very long. And cars from any manufacturer now, any new cars, don't buy any brand new cars at all for many, many reasons that maybe I'll get into later, maybe in a different video. So there's that. You suddenly come in and you see people do this if they won like the lottery or whatever, and they blow all their money, it's gone, and oftentimes end up in worse situation than they were before they got the money. And that's what's happening out there with that. Then you have the people that are they just want what they want now. They don't want to wait for it. They, you know, that delayed gratification, which is so much more gratifying when you work hard and you wait for something and wait until you can pay cash for it. It is far more gratifying than the instant got to buy it now. And now you're depressed because, oh, the dopamine hit's gone. And now I'm stuck with this product that I decided I really don't like. And then under that, the delayed gratification, there's the fancy new vehicles, the eating out, the big houses, and or remodels. Sometimes people will buy these big fancy houses, go deep in debt for the house, then go even further into debt doing all these remodels instead of waiting until they have the money to pay for it. And then as I mentioned, I think last week where I was talking about the family vacations, they're just not saving for family vacations or any vacations, whether it be with their family or just themselves. They're just charging everything or taking out loans. They do the same for smaller purchases such as clothes, shoes, purses, all luxury items, makeup, and the like. A lot of this stuff being promoted to them from by influencers on Instagram and TikTok. They just got to have it. And they'll pay more going through TikTok shop than they would for that same exact product buying it either directly from the company or just somewhere else. They're gonna pay more. And a lot of it is trash. Um, so yeah, it's the what it is, it's almost an addiction. It's an addiction to the dopamine hits they feel every time they purchase something. And it goes right hand in hand with gambling, which has always been an issue. And of course, there's a lot of people out there deep in debt that have lost everything because of gambling. And we're talking about celebrities who have made millions off of their movies. There's quite a number of them out there. You might be surprised to find out are barely making it. They've lost pretty much everything because they blew all that money thinking that they would always everything is always going to do this good. Oh, I'll never age, or people get tired of watching my movies, or whatever. Anything can happen. I see ads for dresses on Temu for 79 cents. They pull you in and crowd out good companies. Ugh, I've never bought from Temu. In fact, Temu started trying to contact me over and over and over again to affiliate with them. And I kept marking their stupid emails as spam, so they wouldn't come into my inbox. Yet they would still keep coming in because I keep sending them from a different email address. That's another ploy. Finally, I said, I keep marking these stupid messages from spam as spam, and yet they still keep coming in. I'm not interested in your garbage. Stop contacting me. And they finally did. I'm not going to sell their trash. But then you have like the really, really stupid, silly fad stuff, which in more recent years was the Labubu, that ugly bunny rabbit looking monster thing some of you might have seen. Those weren't that expensive, but what was happening is they became such a prized thing to have that people were buying a bunch of them up and turn around and selling them for more than, I think their $30 was the going price. And then they were like double, triple, quadruple charging for them on eBay, and people will buy it just to have that Labubu or to have the Labubu keychain so they could be cool. And and you had to be careful about pinning that keychain to your purse because somebody would come along and steal it. Are, are you kidding me? This is no different than the Cabbage Patch dolls of the early 80s or the Beanie Babies, which I will admit I have a few because they're part of my tiger leopard collection. I've got a leopard, a tiger. I think I have a couple of tigers. I have a white tiger somewhere. Oh, he's over there. He's way over there. You can't see him. I don't even know if you could see these. They're just barely out of shot. But um, I wasn't buying them because I was trying to get a good stock. Though I was hoping it was true that one day they would actually have value. They don't. No, nothing. No value to them at all. But what was the other recent thing? Oh, the Stanley Cups. Have you seen some of these people that have like a whole wall of Stanley Cups? What a massive waste of space. Just think how many jars of canned food you could put up in that on those shelves. But instead, they're full of a whole bunch of empty Stanley Cups, and you can only use one at a time, maybe two. And then they have all the charms and the sleeves and all the little silly, goofy stuff that you can buy to put on them. And I was watching this woman where she even named all of her I don't know how many she had. It was so many. I don't even know how you could remember the names of all of them. But she named them. She gave them names. And now I'm going to dress up Sally in this and that, and I'm like, How silly. What a massive waste of money. And these same people can't figure out how to just stay ahead, how to cook a meal or whatever. Like, I don't know why we're in so much debt. Okay, what else? You also had those little squishy things, those little squishy toys. Those went ballistic too because everybody wanted the glitter one, the little whatever. So it's supposed to be one of them little stress things. They're kind of fun to squish, but to buy 50 of them just so you could get that glitter one because you never know which one you're going to get. You're still here, huh, buddy? Did you get your socks wet? Yeah? Okay. So I already mentioned that for a lot of these people, it's all just about wanting a brand name and they'll pay any cost just so they can have the brand name, even if they don't like the look of the product, the shirt, the purse. Well, this is what I can afford. I'm going to buy it because this is the cheapest one. It's ugly, but I'm going to buy it just so I can have that brand name so I can look important. It's all about impressing other people. And we know that saying that, you're wasting money to it on and to impress people we don't even like or know. What an absolute waste. Wouldn't that money better be spent not just preparing for your own future, but to take care of your children? To learn how to do things for yourself, to invest in your own home, your actual home, not a bunch of stuff you don't need for your home, but things that you would make things go smoother, like maybe buying a dehydrator or a canner, that kind of stuff, and not having to run out and buy the Excalibur dehydrator unless that's the one you really want, just because that's supposed to be the very best. And it makes you feel more important because you have the Excalibur dehydrator that costs hundreds of dollars more than the Kasori that works just as well. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm not putting down getting an Excalibur dehydrator. Some people have them and love them, whatever. But don't feel pressured into buying the most expensive thing because you got to have that name and you got to make sure everybody knows you have an Excalibur. Like for me, oh, I have the All American canner, which I do, and I love it, but it's also very expensive. And I think it's almost twice. I know my country living grain mill is literally more than twice as expensive, twice twice what I paid for it 13 years ago, something like that. Yeah, 13 years ago. More than doubled in cost. And I'm like, man, that's why I don't promote it anymore because I'm like, who can afford this? And I just feel guilty. Even if I can get a little commission if people go through my Amazon link for it, because that's where I bought it, was through Amazon. And it is made here in Washington State. But man, there's got to be something just as good out there that you don't have to break the bank or maybe even find at a garage sale. Don't go buy that just because I have it and because, oh, it's the country living grain mill. So you want to invest in quality, obviously, for things you're going to use. Otherwise, you're wasting money. But don't go buy something just because an influencer s- said, well, this is what I have, or said that you should buy it. You got to look at what you can afford and compare the quality. And like I said in the video that published today, look for garage sale finds or secondhand finds, where whatever your secondhand outreach is in wherever you are. Because not everybody has Facebook. Not everybody, like I think people have told me who live in the UK, they don't commonly have like garage sales and yard sales to shop at. Seems like I remember a couple of people telling me that. But I don't know, maybe they can use Facebook Market to find things that people are trying to get rid of. And a lot of times people think they want to get into canning and they'll invest in a lot of this stuff brand new or dehydrating. And then they'll turn around and sell this stuff because they realize, oh, I'm never going to get to it. I should just get this stuff out of here and sell it. And then they'll sell it for cheap. Not always cheap, cheap, but some people will. Same thing. I've seen the same thing with freeze dryers, bread makers, bread machines and the like. I don't know how many bread machines I've seen at garage sales, but I've never been interested in one. Though I do understand now that some people, they have arthritis and the kneading and whatever. I get it. I understand. So I'm not being trying to be judgmental on that. So, okay. Oh, and then this one I did mention in the video about family vacation. What is the other excuse a lot of people make on these expending so much money on um, not just the vacations, but on buying their kids designer bags? Which guess what? Those designer bags, a lot of those other designer things, the parts to them are all made in China and then shipped over to France so they could be assembled in France and then say made in France. It's the same stuff. So that as a cheap one you can buy. It's just that you're buying it directly from China instead of going from China to France and then to you. But the excuse is that I want my kids to have more than I had. I want my kids to be better off than I was. But how better off are they going to be if you are deep in debt? Um, you're certainly not going to be able to, like, I don't necessarily think parents should have to pay for their kids to go to college. But if you are one of those that wants to save up a college fund for your kids to help them out with their schooling when they graduate from high school, how's it going to happen when we're putting vacations and, fancy expensive vacations, cars, remodels, um, designer clothes, and whatever else, and then all the silly stuff like the Stanley cups and the Labubus, if we're making those things more important than looking out for the future of our children? How are you going to be able to do that? Because like I said earlier, I'm saying you, but you guys know I'm just being general. How are people going to be able to do that when they're just living in the moment and spending all their money and not saving and ending up deep in debt because they have to have this item? And they're addicted to the dopamine hits they get from these little micro purchases. Speaking of micro purchases, some other common ones that any of us can really be susceptible to are games. If you get into any kind of game, it's like, well, I could buy this and really move ahead in this game faster, and it's only going to cost me $2 or $3 or $5. That's probably okay now and then, but if you're doing that every day, maybe several times a day, and you're not watching, those micro purchases can nip you in the butt in this case. I know the real saying is nip you in the bud, but in this case, in the butt. And next thing you know, like, okay, here's a prime example. And this goes way back to when my niece, who's in her mid 30s, she's in at least her mid 30s. Let me check this message. That's his dad. I thought maybe okay, never mind. I'll go back to that. Anyway, so when she was a young teen, and that was when cell phones, they were smaller. All you could do on them was call or text people. That was it. Well, the texting at that time was by the text. It wasn't like an unlimited thing. You had to pay for each text you sent or received. And so her parents were paying for her phone bill, and they get this phone bill, and it's like for her phone, $800. The text might have been like maybe 10 cents to send and 2 cents to receive. Micro purchases, right? But when you're sending that many texts, you're not thinking, "Oh, it's just this, it's just this, it's just this." And you stop paying attention to how many nickels and dimes are flying out the door. And when you do that, next thing you know, you're going to have a bill that's $800. So, as I'm sure you can understand, they took our phone away for a while. That's scary. But that can happen to anyone if they're not being financially savvy and paying attention even to the micro purchases, because it's just a few cents. It's just a couple dollars. And those things can catch up to you probably even faster than the bigger expenses that that you've been eyeballing for a while. Maybe that quality pair of shoes that you want to use for your gardening or for whatever. Like my Merry People boots. I finally did just recently purchase another pair, but I'm so happy with them. But I didn't get the boot this time. I got the clog style ones because I think those for just around here will be a lot more useful for me. I did have to yesterday or 2 days ago throw away another pair of my Kizik's because I wore them out. Those are the kids size ones. They just kid size shoes just aren't made to last. So, yeah. So I thought maybe those they could still be a slip on so I can still be hands free and just move from place to place and not have to do that. And then yeah. So I'm hoping they're going to be a good choice for me. Are they cheap? No. But are they quality? Yes. So I would rather see instead of having a bunch of little micro purchases for this, that, and the other thing, I would rather have that go towards a quality pair of shoes or boots. Because man, gotta take care of my feet. See, ask the question first. Do we need or just want? Right. Right. Do you need it or do you just want it? Very good. Absolutely. That's what we have to ask ourselves. And I appreciate you throwing that in there. I know some other people have said that in the past too. And it's like, I don't know why I always forget to throw that out there, but absolutely. Do you need this thing or do you just want it? And I have to do that too, because sometimes I look, I was like, oh, just like the Merry People boots. I like them. I like the way they look. Do I need 50 pairs? No. Or do I need a pair in every color? No, no, I do not. So I still only have the ankle boot, and now I'm going to have the clogs. So I have one of each. That's all I plan on getting, unless I don't know. We'll see. Unless I find more uses for them. I want to have a pair for the garden and a pair to wear out, and yeah, we can make all kinds of excuses though, can't we? We can make all kinds of excuses when it comes to spending money. And when you listen to some of these people, they have all kinds of excuses, and almost all of them are lame, lame excuses. So anyway, I'm gonna have to get back to my son over here. I wonder if whatever. Anyway, so I'm gonna I got to get going because it is nice out there. It started out really cloudy today, and it's like, oh, good. That means I can get out there and pick some more raspberries today. Excited about getting so many raspberries put up. I cannot. So excited about finally being able to make raspberry jam again. Having enough berries to do that, as well as having enough to do all the other wonderful things, like especially Patrick's raspberry turnovers. So anyway, I'm going to get going. I'm going to let you guys get going. And thank you so much, really, truly, for your time and listen to me rant and rave. I know I'm not right about everything, and I don't expect everyone to agree with everything I say. But I do hope that there's at least something I throw out there that can be a little bit of valuable piece of information. And to help us all kind of look at our own selves, including me. Is there, do I have things I waste my money on that I could do better with? Certainly. And, we all should be examining ourselves, not just judging the rest of the world, but use them as an example like, wow, okay, that's how they got in that position. I need to watch myself so I don't end up in that same place or whatever the case may be. So anyway, thank you all for coming in, and I hope you guys have a beautiful rest of your day, and take care, and God bless. Bye.